Isekai is one of the genres that is famous everywhere out of Japan. Constantly more and more new isekai manhwa are being brought to us, and we, as readers, can't seem to get enough of it. The best part of the isekai genre is when the protagonist gets transported to another world. They are becoming overpowered as hell and crushing the enemy like an ant. So here's a list of the top 10 best isekai manhwa you'll love to read over and over again. Before we start, be sure to subscribe to our channel and press on that bell icon so there's all to be notified about our latest videos. Coming in at number 10, we have Per Summon. It's the story of a shut-in otaku who got publicly shamed and cyberbullied into being a NEET. He suffers from panic disorder, anxiety, you name it, so he spends all his time in his room without ever stepping foot outside. Thankfully, his parents are there for him. One day, our main character was suddenly summoned in a fantasy world where he could use his creative imagination and otherworldly mana to defeat gigantic demons and learn to turn himself around into someone great. It's an isekai, but it's super creative and clearly has a lot of care put into it. It's not about some generic teen or young adult who was hit by a truck-kun and given an overpowered skill and meets a blonde elf and they go on their adventure, so keep that in mind. Oh, and one more important piece of information, he isn't stuck in another world, but in fact, a summon who comes and goes from his normal world. How he fights in the story so far is top-notch. The art is simply out of this world, and the artists really gave their all to draw the amazing fight scenes or power-ups, and as well as some great fan service for the men and women of culture out there. Coming in at number 9, we have Otherworld Warrior. This one takes place in modern-day Korea. A young man is under a lot of financial pressure and his family is falling apart from it. While looking for job posts on the internet one day, he finds a post that asks him to sell his soul in exchange for money. The protagonist accepts and is transported to another world. What's different about this comic is that the protagonist is transported into different situations each time. The comic is currently ongoing, so there's still a lot of mystery about what's actually going on, but the protagonist basically gets transported by his employer into the body of someone in another world who has sold his soul in exchange for a request. Now, the protagonist is possessing the request maker. He must make the request happen. The protagonist possesses multiple characters in multiple situations, which keeps the plot from getting stale. It has many arcs, and I absolutely recommend it. Each arc is well planned out, and I am most certain that you will enjoy it. At number 8, we have Murium Lagann. The story takes place in an era where hunters thrive on hunting monsters that come from gates. Our main character is the low-rank hunter who picks up a VR machine and accidentally logs into the game, which is set in the world of martial arts. After many ups and downs, he is able to escape this world. The strength and skills which he received in the game were able to be carried over back to the real world. This allows him to continue making a living as a hunter, but he decides to return back to the world of Murium out of care for his NPC friends. Damn, the story and fights are just too good. It's an interesting mix between solo leveling and cultivation manhwa, and it makes it unique. The main character is a clueless bastard to an extent that is more human-like than any other main character in those two types of manhwa. Clearly, worth my time reading this. Make yourself an opinion, but I think it's really good. Coming in at number 7, we have Memorize. A guy lives through a brutal isekai world for 10 years, where all his friends die. He ends up living as a loner and becoming the strongest player. He uses the power to turn back time to hinder all the death he experienced. In this life, he decides to not be a loner. I like the premise of the story. In short, it is an overpowered man who uses his knowledge and skill from the previous life to become really strong, and he also gathers strong followers in the process. This is definitely worth the time to read, but if it isn't interesting enough now, give it some more time, and it will definitely catch your attention. At number 6, we have The Second Coming of Gluttony. This is a Korean isekai story of an kind of overpowered protagonist who starts off as an asshole, but becomes a good guy. Our protagonist really is an unlikable degenerate. He is just being a scum after falling on hard times. He emotionally blackmails his ex into giving him money, but then is transferred to another world via a contract. What is this world? How does this contract work? It's a mystery that we uncover as we follow our protagonist. After arriving in this new world where his life is constantly on the line, our main character learns to rely on others, help others, and become a better person. Also, he has memories and visions of the future events that are going to happen. It's hard to say a lot without spoilers, so I guess I'll just finish with read it, and don't be like me, staying up until 4 a.m. doing so. It will suck you in, so be warned. Remember to eat, drink, and sleep responsibly while reading. At number 5, we have Trapped in a Web Novel as a Good-for-Nothing. A man who is up all night working falls asleep and wakes up to find himself in a web novel that he was reading. Not only that, he finds himself in the body of a villain in the series who ends up getting killed after being used by the main character. Born into the wealthy family, hated by his family members, and prone to violent tantrums, the character is fated to be manipulated and killed. To escape his doom, our main character finds a way to become one of the Awakened, those gifted with supernatural powers. He'll try to level up and climb the ranks, defeating monsters in different dimensions and his enemies at the same time. The art is really well done, and the story is getting more exciting as the time passes. I'm wondering if he'll be able to catch up to the main character due to his future knowledge because he's a reader of the web novel. Coming in at number 4, we have Trash of the Count's Family. This story is filled with adventure and action. I don't mean your typical adventure where the main character is overpowered as fucking strength. Kale, the main character, is what makes these adventures unique and interesting. Kale, just like you and me, wants to live a peaceful life where he is just a slacker. He finds himself in situations where it prevents him from doing all of that, because he wakes up as a minor character of a novel he was reading. And what's more shocking, that the character is destined to be killed by the main character in the novel. Now he has to change his fate. Personally, I love when the main character thinks 10 steps ahead of his enemy. He is slick and great with his words. It is quite amusing watching him scam the bad guys and in the process add more people to his harem he doesn't realize he made. The writing is quite interesting and the style is amazing. Perhaps that's due to the translations. However, there are just some lines where I just had to sit back and just stare at the wall because the author was spitting straight facts. So you must read this one. Coming in at number 3, we have The Constellation That Returned from Hell. The story is about a Korean guy that's obsessed with training. At the beginning, he trained to become a high-rank hunter and to clear monster portals. Yeah, just like solo leveling. One day, an opportunity for him arises as an unexperienced constellation, or you can say God, wants to make a contract with him. He gains power and time to train, but has to serve her. But somehow, the main character got swept away by a passing mana storm, so he starts traveling through a strange universe, always seeking a new training, a new challenge, and etc. The story is an action comedy that keeps a certain seriousness while not taking itself seriously. The fights are awesome, and he keeps getting ridiculously overpowered as the time goes on. Just wait for him to return to planet Earth. Honestly, I really like the main character. He really reminds me of Goku. As far as the story goes, it is a really interesting story that I started liking after only reading one chapter. The art is really good, and I really recommend you to read this. At number 2, we have The Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint. The story is about Kim Doksha, who once read a book, and that book has always been there for him, and it saved his life. But then at the same time, same day, the world ended, and the book he read about blended with the reality he was living in. One day, our main character finds himself stuck in the world of his favorite web novel. What does he do to survive? There's a world struck by catastrophe and danger all around. He knows the plot of the story all the way to the end, because he was the sole reader that stuck with it. Read his story to see how he survives. It starts off a bit slow in the beginning like others say, and it includes a really good plot, full of action, cleverness, twists, and comradeship. Character development is not present just yet in the manhwa, but the art is great. Handsome and pretty people with a variety of faces and clothing, and it is one of the best manhwa I'm reading currently. And number 1 goes to The Beginning After the End. I think most of you might already be aware of this amazing isekai manhwa. It is a story about a boy named Arthur, who was a king in his previous life, and how he will become the strongest wizard who will save mankind. I love the story so far, and I can understand why the novel and the manga are so popular. All the chapters have been phenomenal, and I love how the main character has a level-headed mindset at all times. And the concept of everyone being able to unlock magical powers through work and effort also sits well with me. I literally have no words to describe this manga. It's so good. It's one of my favorite mangas ever. I recommend everyone to try reading this one. You won't regret it. Everything is good, from the plot to the art and to the characters. It all matches and keeps you engaged the whole time. We highly suggest you consider all these manhwa titles on the list. Each of them is unique and a masterpiece, and you will never regret reading it. So this is all for the list, and if you have any other suggestions, make sure to let us know what you think in the comment section down below. Also, if you're looking to support me, don't forget to become a member of the channel. That way you can check out exclusive content that we make for members only. Don't forget to like, share, and definitely don't forget to subscribe. And as for now, I'll catch you later. See you in the next one.